Most people look at the Kansas City Chiefs holding the number 9 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft as the byproduct of a brutal season, a roster finally stretched too thin, or a temporary regression to the mean. But I see this entirely differently. I view this rare top 10 selection not as a penalty, but as the final, terrifying brick in the wall for Andy Reid's 2026 offensive evolution, a mathematical reset that allows a front office to violently bypass the league's parity mandates. I'm Daniel, and this is the Strategic View from RedZone Kingdom. In my view, to understand the gravity of Brett Veach's current mindset, we have to deeply examine the historical physics of the Chiefs dynasty. For nearly a decade, the rest of the National Football League has desperately relied on the draft to catch up, while Kansas City has been actively penalized for its own greatness. Picking consistently in the late 20s or at number 32 is a structural disadvantage engineered by the league to force parity. It dictates the geometry of the roster. When you draft at the bottom of the first round, you aren't drafting blue-chip day one dominators who immediately tilt the field. You are drafting developmental pieces you simply hope can eventually handle the money downs without becoming a liability. Over time, you bleed veteran talent to inevitable cap casualties because paying Patrick Mahomes and a core of superstars means your middle class gets entirely hollowed out. Your window of opportunity artificially shrinks because the influx of cheap, premium labor is systematically cut off by your own success. But now, that physics equation has temporarily inverted. Veach, holding the 9th overall pick, alters the fundamental geometry of the entire AFC. He is no longer reacting to the board, he is dictating it. My strategic takeaway from Veach's recent remarks is rooted in the pure, unforgiving economics of modern team building. Veach pointed out an incredible reality. Their second-round pick this year carries the exact same talent grade as the first-round picks they've been forced to make for the last 10 years. Let that sink in. The Chiefs are essentially getting 2 of their traditional first-rounders in the span of 40 picks. This allows Andy Reid to dramatically shift his personnel grouping strategies. Instead of relying purely on Mahomes' situational mastery to cover up roster deficiencies or mask an aging offensive line, they can acquire a cost-controlled asset who fundamentally dictates defensive adjustments before the snap. If they land a premier offensive weapon at 9, they aren't just adding a player. They are buying back the spacing and the vertical threat matrix that opposing defenses have slowly learned to compress. But the true genius of Veach's approach and the secret lifeblood of any dynasty lies in the mud of day 3. As Veach astutely noted, the first 75 picks are relatively uniform across NFL draft boards. But after pick 100, the consensus completely shatters. This is where dynasties survive and where lesser franchises drown. When half the league views a prospect as a priority 4th rounder and the other half sees an undrafted free agent, it becomes a test of purely internal conviction. It becomes about recognizing a player who can perfectly execute Reid's precise passing concepts, someone inherently capable of scheming open against complex zone shells, or a defensive back who intimately understands the nuances of late-game clock management and spatial awareness. Let's step inside that war room for a moment. Imagine the psychological relief for a scouting department that has spent years hunting for scraps, suddenly handed premium capital. It changes the oxygen in the room. Every scout, every analyst knows that hitting on a 5th-round gem right now is the ultimate salary cap cheat code. History repeats itself in the NFL. We saw Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots navigate these exact same turbulent waters in the early 2010s, occasionally missing the mark, but eventually using high-value capital to reload their defensive front and offensive line, effectively launching their second trilogy of rings. Veach is currently standing at that exact same historical precipice. With only 6 total picks in this draft, there is absolute zero margin for error,
They cannot trade down endlessly for volume. They must extract maximum immediate impact from these early slots. Every rookie contract they hit on right now is a bloated veteran contract they don't have to pay in free agency, instantly freeing up millions against the unforgiving 2026 salary cap to retain their indispensable core. This draft isn't about padding out depth charts or finding future rotational guys. It is about identifying the specific, foundational pillars that will physically and economically support Mahomes into his mid-30s. The legacy verdict is this: the 2026 offseason will be remembered as the definitive moment the Kansas City Chiefs successfully manipulated the NFL's natural cycle of decay. By hitting on the number 9 overall pick and leveraging their elevated positioning in the subsequent rounds, they won't just be plugging holes on a roster, they will be actively constructing a cheaper, faster, and far more lethal infrastructure. The rest of the league prayed the Chiefs' mounting cap constraints and exhausting draft positioning would finally close their championship window. Instead, Veach and Reid are poised to draft the exact personnel required to permanently break the mathematical model of the league and kick that window wide open for another 5 years.